Welcome everyone. My name is Julie Delmar. In this presentation we explore the experiences of transmasculine sex workers, an often overlooked group within both GSRD and sex work communities. This overview aims to provide some understanding of their lived experience and highlight unique challenges, strengths and joy while looking at ways to better support them using a GSRD lens. I've drawn on academic research, lived experiences and the work of advocacy groups in exploring the complexities of this community. Information and ideas in this presentation are current at time of making in March 2025 and may change in the future. Particularly at this time of ongoing change across the globe, it is important to maintain connection and keep up to date with the latest news, thinking and supportive practices. I'll start by defining a few key terms and put some context in place. The therapeutic lens for this presentation is the GSRD perspective. This places importance in understanding and affirming diverse identities while acknowledging the impact of societal inequalities. The core principles of GSRD therapy are clearly shown in the infograph from Pink Therapy depicted on the slide. Transmasculine is an umbrella term that refers to individuals assigned female at birth who identify, present or express themselves with masculinity in various ways. This includes trans men as well as some non-binary or gender fluid people who lean towards masculinity. Sex work here means any consensual erotic or sexual services exchanged for compensation. It's important to recognise the diverse forms this work can take, from street-based work and escorting to stripping, cam shows and pornography. Importantly, sex work is work. It is not in itself harmful, though stigma and criminalisation create serious risks to workers. Despite a significant presence, transmasculine individuals involved in sex work are often overlooked in research and mainstream narratives. Historical biases in research and the likelihood of misgendering in data collection has perpetuated their invisibility. In fact, a US survey showed about 1/4 of transgender sex workers identified as trans men or transmasculine. This challenges the idea that sex work among trans people is only done by trans women. Data from a 2015 United States transgender survey does highlight the level of diversity within this community. Jack Parker in Working Guys, a transmasculine sex worker anthology referenced at the end of this presentation, notes that transmasculine individuals may assume sex work isn't a viable option for them due to a lack of representation. His experience of searching for relatable narratives and finding only a small zine entitled Trans Rent Boys, Love Don't Pay the Rent highlights the severe lack of transmasculine representation in sex work across all media and is indicative of the lack of representation that perpetuates invisibility. This is further exacerbated by GSRD spaces and sex worker advocates often ignoring transmasculine sex workers. As one transmasculine sex worker put it, sometimes I feel like I'm invisible. Even in spaces that are supposed to be for trans people or sex workers, people just assume, they assume a lot of things that aren't me. A transmasculine person's experience is shaped by their race, ethnicity, class, ability, sexuality, sexual orientation, immigration status, and other facets of their identity. Chronic minority stress from stigmatized identities, transphobia, homophobia, whorephobia, harms both mental and physical health. The intersection of transgender identity and sex work is a multifaceted issue that has historically received limited attention. These experiences, shaped by intersectionality, requires an intersectional lens to provide effective and culturally competent support that addresses the specific needs of each individual. For transmasculine individuals, gender transition is a deeply personal journey of self-discovery and affirmation. In the context of sex work, this process can have complex and sometimes contradictory effects. Jones 2020-21 notes that gender identity influences everything, from brothel acceptance and demand for content to earning potential. Medical transition and the use of testosterone can have significant effects. Testosterone can cause vaginal atrophy, which may reduce the number of clients that can be seen, with a resulting reduction in income. Transition can also alter interactions with both public and clients. Some clients preferring the pre-transition body, resulting in a reducing client base and income, while there is an opportunity to gain clients and gain income. Passing privilege. This can increase safety in public spaces. However, there is also increased reports of violent interactions with clients post-transition. While aligning with their gender identity can be profoundly affirming, physical changes from testosterone and shifting client preferences can impact their work and safety. It is important to create therapeutic space that honors their exploration of identity and expression throughout this process. Sex work can be a double-edged sword from transmasculine people. It has potential to be very affirming, providing recognition and empowerment in their gender, but it also risks dysphoria and emotional harm if they're fetishized or forced into dysphoric situations. Many transmasculine sex workers negotiate their gender presentation for safety or to get work. Gender play, where clients expect a performance of femininity, can be very distressing and invalidating. As one transmasculine sex worker shared, there are times when a client sees me, sees me as a man the way I want to be seen. That feels really good. But then there are the others who just see trans and that's all they see. This stark contrast highlights the emotional tightrope often walked. The dual reality reminds us neither to see sex work as automatically empowering or assume it's uniformly traumatizing, because it can be both, and all experiences vary. An affirmative approach involves supporting transmasculine sex workers navigating this emotional balancing act, validating all their complex realities and experiences. Transmasculine sex workers often face significant structural challenges due to stigma, the criminalization of sex work, and discrimination within communities. All impact employment opportunities, advertising of services, and can result in exclusion from some online platforms, lower pay, job loss, and financial insecurity. High rates of physical and sexual violence from clients, intimate partners, and law enforcement, and the lack of legal and social protection, increased levels of vulnerability, and reduced safety and security. Intersectionality helps us recognize that transmasculine sex workers experience compounded forms of repression. Cultural competence requires us to understand these systemic inequalities and the impact on their lived experience. In this way, we're able to validate and have a greater level of understanding of transmasculine sex workers' experiences. Transmasculine sex workers are often underserved by healthcare. A report by CAP shows 1 in 3 transmasculine people avoid or delay seeking healthcare due to disrespect or discrimination. Providers lack training and understanding of transmasculine sex workers' unique health needs. Furthermore, access to trans-affirming healthcare can be very difficult. This is due to high cost, lack of insurance coverage, strict gatekeeping processes, or waiting lists. The intersections of trans identity, sex work, and other marginalized identities create significant minority stress and leads to increased risks of mental health issues. This results in extremely high rates of PTSD, anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation for transmasculine sex workers. A trauma-informed approach that addresses the specific stressors and potential trauma experienced by this population is key to providing a safe space and building of trust. We can also act as a bridge in helping navigate healthcare systems. Despite the challenges, transmasculine sex workers find joy, exhibit incredible resilience, creativity, and find a sense of belonging by building communities. Today, social media and forums are reducing their sense of isolation through connection. Sex work can offer financial independence, flexibility, and a sense of agency over one's life, body, and work choices, as well as paying for transition, while creative self-expression can be a source of joy and personal discovery. Transmasculine sex workers have developed resourceful strategies in navigating dangers and providing mutual care, where formal support is very limited or unavailable. For instance, warning each other about dangerous clients, pooling funds for someone's surgery, or educating about safety. ARE, affirm, recognize, empower. Affirming their agency, recognizing their skills and empowering them to advocate for their needs and rights. Viewing sex work not just through a lens of risk, but also one of empowerment. Celebrating strengths fosters therapeutic growth, resilience, and can reinforce existing positive coping strategies. The next two slides offer some practical ideas around how we can better support transmasculine sex workers. We'll just go through them briefly. I'm creating safe, non-judgmental and affirming space and consistently using correct names and pronouns. Provide gender-affirming and trauma-informed care. Cultivate trans-affirmative and sex work positive practices, challenging biases, and remember and educate ourselves. Recognize and affirm sex work as legitimate work and understand unique challenges and coping mechanisms. Actively explore and understand intersecting identities and oppressions, and center empowerment and agency by focusing on their autonomy and strengths while we address stigma and shame. Center the voices and lived experiences of transmasculine sex workers and acknowledge and address their invisibility. Be aware of specific healthcare needs that will include gender-affirming care and sexual health. Connect them to transmasculine and sex worker support, legal aid, healthcare, and try to make sure that we're up to date with that information. Advocate for policies that decriminalise sex work and protect transmasculine rights while challenging transphobia and whorephobia and stigma wherever you find it. In summary, today we've explored the invisibility of transmasculine sex workers, how intersecting identities and systemic inequalities impact their lived experiences, and the impact transitioning can have on their income and working lives. The idea that sex work is work and that it can be both gender-affirming and dysphoria-inducing and can be a double-edged sword between authenticity and income, and how it can also empower and traumatize. We've looked at the challenges within sex work environment and healthcare and affirmed sex work as a legitimate form of labour, while exploring transmasculine sex workers' joy, empowerment, resilience and community. Lastly, throughout the presentation we have considered practical ways to affirm, understand and support transmasculine sex workers through a GSRD lens. This has included affirmation of identities, a non-pathologizing stance, applying intersectional and trauma-informed approaches and the development of cultural competence and contextualizing their experiences, while allowing safe space for identity exploration and acknowledging diverse relationships, addressing the impact of minority stress and trauma, and empowering them to advocate for themselves. Going forward, we should be advocates in whatever ways we can, whether providing letters for gender-affirming care, referring clients to trans-friendly and sex worker-friendly resources, or using our voices in the community to challenge stigma and push for policy changes. There are references and resources available, and I hope that you find them helpful. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation. If you have any questions or would like further information, you can contact me at email address info@juliedelmar.com. And remember, March the 31st is International Transgender Day of Visibility. Thank you.